The plasma restraints hummed with lethal energy as Adam watched helplessly from his cell aboard the Zephyrian dreadnought. Through the reinforced viewport, he could see the execution platform where they had dragged Maheen and 17 other human colonists from New Terra Prime. The Galactic Tribunal's verdict had been swift and merciless. Death for illegal expansion into protected space. Adam's fists clenched against the energy bonds. He had tried to explain that the coordinates had been approved by the Galactic Navigation Authority 3 years ago, but the Tribunal's Zephyrian judges had dismissed his evidence as primitive human fabrications. The real truth was simpler and more damning. The Zephyrians wanted New Terra Prime's rare quantum crystals for themselves. "Watch carefully, human," hissed Commander Vex through the cell's communication system. "Let this be a lesson to your pathetic species about challenging your betters." The execution beam charged with a low, ominous whine. Adam's heart hammered against his ribs as Maheen turned toward his cell. Even at this distance, he could see her lips moving, forming words meant for him alone. "Remember the protocol." The beam fired. Adam's scream of rage echoed through the ship's corridors, but Commander Vex merely laughed. Emotional creatures, these humans. So predictable. So weak. What the Zephyrians didn't know was that every human colony ship carried more than just settlers and supplies. Deep within Adam's neural implant, a quantum-encrypted message transmitted across the galaxy at faster-than-light speeds, reaching Earth in mere seconds despite the distance of 10,000 light-years. The message was simple. Protocol 7. They murdered our children. Admiral Sarah Chen received the transmission while reviewing defensive positions around the Sol system. She had been expecting this day for years, the day when humanity's patient facade would finally crumble. For 2 decades, humans had played the role of grateful newcomers to galactic civilization, accepting insults and territorial restrictions while secretly preparing for the inevitable betrayal. "Activate the Lazarus networks," she commanded her tactical officer. "Signal all deep cover assets. Execute revenge protocol immediately." Across the galaxy, humans who had spent years integrating into alien societies received the same coded message. Dr. Marcus Webb, working as a primitive engineer on the Zephyrian homeworld, calmly walked to his workshop and began assembling the device he had been building, component by component for 3 years. Captain Lisa Park, serving as a harmless cultural attaché on the Galactic Council Station, accessed her hidden weapons cache and began moving toward the Central Command Center. The Zephyrians had made a fatal assumption about human nature. They believed that because humans appeared emotional and chaotic, they were incapable of long-term planning or coordinated action. They had never bothered to study human military history, the species that had survived ice ages, world wars, and their own nuclear adolescence. Commander Vex was reviewing execution footage when his ship's systems began failing one by one. "What's happening?" he barked at his engineering crew. "Sir, it appears to be cascading system failures, but our diagnostics show all systems functioning normally," his chief engineer reported, mandibles clicking with confusion. What they couldn't detect was the virus that Dr. Webb had spent months introducing into Zephyrian computer networks through seemingly routine maintenance protocols. The code was based on human neural patterns, completely alien to Zephyrian quantum processors, and therefore invisible to their security systems. Meanwhile, on the Galactic Council Station, Captain Park had reached the central communications hub. The alien technicians barely noticed her presence. Humans were considered too primitive to understand galactic technology. That assumption cost them dearly as Park's modified neural interface, enhanced with stolen Zephyrian tech, began broadcasting a very specific message across all military frequencies. The message wasn't in words, it was pure mathematics. The exact gravitational calculations needed to destabilize the quantum barriers protecting the Zephyrian home system. Admiral Chen smiled grimly as reports flooded in from across human space. Every major Zephyrian installation was experiencing mysterious technical failures. Their proud fleet, which had terrorized smaller species for centuries, found themselves dead in space as their engines shut down one by one. But the real masterpiece was yet to come. "Ma'am, the Prometheus array is in position," her weapons officer reported. For 20 years, humanity had been secretly constructing a network of gravitational manipulation stations throughout the galaxy, disguised as simple mining operations. The Zephyrians had never bothered to inspect human activities. After all, what could such a primitive species possibly accomplish? They were about to find out. "Fire!" Admiral Chen commanded. The Zephyrian homeworld's defensive grid detected the gravitational anomalies exactly 4.7 seconds before impact, not nearly enough time to react. Across their system, artificial singularities began forming at precise coordinates, each one carefully calculated to maximize structural damage while minimizing casualties. Humanity's revenge was surgical, not genocidal. The Zephyrian military infrastructure simply disappeared. Shipyards, weapon platforms, command centers, all consumed by brief, controlled micro-black holes that vanished as quickly as they had appeared. The planet itself remained untouched, its cities and civilian population unharmed. Commander Vex watched in horror as his ship's viewport showed the destruction of everything he had thought made his species invincible. "How is this possible?" he whispered. "Humans are barely more advanced than animals." Adam, still locked in his cell but no longer bound by the failing restraint system, answered through the intercom. "That's your first mistake, Commander. You never bothered to learn what we're really capable of. You saw our emotions and mistook them for weakness. You saw our chaos and missed the method within it." He paused, thinking of Maheen and the others who had died for Zephyrian greed. "But your biggest mistake was assuming that because we forgive easily, we forget easily. We don't. Every slight, every betrayal, every act of cruelty, we remember it all. And when you murdered our children in front of us, you crossed a line we drew 20,000 years ago, when we first looked up at the stars." The ship shuddered, as its remaining systems failed completely. "Welcome to human warfare, Commander. We don't just defeat our enemies. We make sure they never threaten anyone again." Within hours, every major power in the galaxy received the same message from Earth. Humanity had been patient. Humanity had been peaceful. But humanity's children had been murdered, and the perpetrators had learned the true meaning of human wrath. The Galactic Council convened an emergency session, suddenly very interested in reconsidering humanity's status as a primitive species. The Zephyrians, stripped of their military might but alive and unharmed, were given a choice: accept human terms for reparations and reform, or face the complete dismantling of their technological civilization. They chose reparations. Adam stood on the observation deck of the human rescue ship that had retrieved him, watching new Terra Prime's twin suns set over the colony they had died to protect. Maheen and the others would be remembered, their sacrifice meaning something greater than the Zephyrians could have imagined. Humanity had announced itself to the galaxy not as conquerors, but as protectors of their own. And the message was clear to every species watching: touch our children and learn why Earth's children had inherited the stars. The galaxy would never underestimate humanity again.